Good morning, girls and boys. It's Julie coming to you from the Amherst branch of the Cumberland Public Libraries. It's time for another one of our take and make activities. And all of these take and make kits are out in the branches. You guys can pop out there to your branch and pick these up. And this is what we're going to make with them. We're going to make these awesome little seed bombs. And I don't know if you can see the seeds on those, but there is seeds on the top of it. And I'm going to show you how to make them. Everything that you need is in the bag, except for you'll need a bowl, you'll need some water, you'll need a blender. Now, if you don't have a blender at home, it's okay because you could actually do this one without a blender, but I'm going to show you the easy way to do it with the blender, and then I'll explain how to do it without the blender as well. So in your kit, you've got a pack of seeds. That's very important. You need the seeds to do seed bombs. You'll have a mold. Now, some of the molds are going to be hearts, and some of the molds are going to be flowers. It just depends on which kit you've picked up. They're all going to work the same way. And then you're also going to have a bunch of colors of paper. Now, if you want to make more than what you've got in your mold, you can add more paper to it. If you want to make less, you can do that as well. These are some that I made up on the weekend, and they're actually still a little bit damp, but I'll explain to you how you have to leave them to sit and dry out, because you want to have them dry before you plant them. So you're going to take your kit, you're going to take all your paper, and you're going to either cut it or tear it up into tiny, tiny pieces. So you're just going to take a piece of paper and go like this and cut it up into the smallest pieces, the tiniest pieces you can do, because you want them all to blend together. We're going to make something called paper pulp, and that's what paper is made from when we make it from trees. They mash it down into a pulp, and then they dry it all out, and they spread it, or they lay it flat so it will dry out, and that forms the paper. So you're going to continue doing this until all of your paper is torn into a bunch of pieces. Now, if you have little ones at home, the tearing is fun for them. They can do this with their fingers. If you're a little bit impatient, you can do what I did, and you can actually use the scissors and cut it. But you want to make the pieces as small as you possibly can, because that's going to give you the best results when you're forming your seed bomb. So, now, what is a seed bomb? A seed bomb is a little thing like this that's got seeds in it that you can plant anywhere, and you can create your own garden. So if you want to plant it in a pot, you can do that. If you want to plant it in your backyard or your front yard, you can do that. The story that I read last week was called Seeds of Friendship, and you should go back and listen to that, because it's a really cool story about a little boy that makes some friends, and they decide to plant some flowers all over their neighborhood to make it absolutely beautiful. So we're going to do the same thing with these. Like I said, you can plant them anywhere. These are a great gift if somebody you know is having a birthday coming up, or Mother's Day, or any other holiday, and you want to give them to somebody special. That's an awesome thing to do, because it's a gift that keeps on giving. It is the gift that will come up every year. Now, and actually before I say that, it depends on your flowers. Each kit's going to have different kinds of seeds in it. This one has wildflower seeds, and these will come up year and after year. Some of the seeds are annuals, which means that they're only going to come up one year. But that's okay, because then you can do it again next year and do some different flowers. So we're almost finished with this, and then I'm going to show you what I've done with the other colors. Now, in this one, there was blue paper and pink paper and purple paper, and it all came out purple. The colors all mashed together, and it came out purple. So there's my red paper. Now, just to save some time, instead of tearing up all the rest of these papers, I'm just going to tuck these aside, and I'm going to use this paper that I cut up yesterday, I cut it up on the weekend anyway. Now, what you need to do is pour all of the paper into a bowl. And then the important part comes next. You need to get this paper wet, because right now this paper isn't going to form into anything because it's all dry. You can squeeze it and nothing happens. It all falls apart. So it needs something to hold it together. We don't want to use glue because we want this to be a natural product. So I wonder, we're going to pour the water in here. And it's important that all of your paper is covered in water because it needs to get mushy. So I'm just going to use my fingers and push that all down here. Now, a lot of our take and makes are projects that you can do right away. This is kind of like one of our science experiments. This one's going to take a little bit of time. You have to be patient with this one because once you get your paper all completely covered in water, you have to walk away and leave it for about 15 or 20 minutes so that the paper has a chance to absorb as much of the water as it can. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to, let me get out of the way so you can see that. So as you can see, now the paper's wet. So look, it's all sticking together, even without glue. It's kind of like magic. So we're just going to make sure that everything is completely wet. Now the funny thing is, the wet pieces of paper want to stick to your hands too. So you could end up with very colorful fingers. And if you're using darker colors of paper, don't be surprised if the color comes out into some of your lighter ones. This one I have yellow, orange, a darker orange, and red. So when it's all mashed together, I'm expecting that probably the darkest color will be the most dominant color, or the one you'll see the most. And what color will that be? That's right, red. Excuse me, but red and yellow make orange. So it may surprise us and it may turn out orange as well. So we're just going to leave this sit for 20 minutes and then we're going to come back and I'll show you what to do next. I'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're back. So we've left this sitting for about 20 minutes and the water has soaked into the paper really well. And now we need to get the paper out of the water and into the blender. And we need to get rid of some of the water because we want the paper to be wet, but we don't want it to be soaking wet because if it does, then it's going to take forever to dry. So I'm just going to use my hand. And if you can see, my water has started to turn red. So I'm just going to squeeze some of the water out before I put it in here. And then we're going to blend it up. Now, if you don't have a blender at home, you can do this next part by using a fork and the paper. And all you're going to do is stir it with a fork until all the paper is mashed together. And it makes that pulp that I was talking about, or a mash of paper. And you can still make them do the same thing. Right now, if I tried to squeeze these together, the paper would probably hold together right now. But as it started to dry, it would probably start to come apart. So, oops. That's funny that the water is a different color. It's a little cold too. Okay. See if I can get as much of this out of here as I can. And you're going to need a little bit of water in it because once the blender starts, we need to have the paper be able to move around. And if it's too dry, then it just sticks to the side of the cup and it doesn't mash up the way that we need it to. So we're going to just do this. Got a few more pieces in here. This feels kind of neat actually because the water feels really soft, but the edges of the paper feel rough on my fingers. So what I'm going to do is put everything in here, and then I'm going to put it in my blender. Now, when we're running the blender, you're not going to be able to hear me speak because the blender is going to be a little bit loud. We're in a little room here at the library, and it's going to echo. So we may just have to take out the audio for that part. But, okay, so now you can see I have a bunch of wet paper in my blender cup, but it still doesn't look like this. So we need to blend it together, or like I said, you can use a fork or something and mash it up. Okay, so I'm just going to add a little bit of water to this, even though I've squeezed some out, because I want it to be able to move around in the blender, and I don't want it all to stick to the top of the blender, or to the top of the mug. So now, for this blender, everybody's blender is going to be a little bit different. Some of you will have a blender with buttons on the side, and you'll just put your plastic thing on the top. This one, as you can see, you put in like this, and then I'm going to push it down and turn it so that it stays in place, and it's going to make all kinds of noise, and then I'll come back and tell you what we're doing. So let's see how loud this is going to be. All right. Okay, so it started to mash, but it needs a little bit more water, because if there's not enough water in there to make it move around, if you can see, you see the stuff that was in the blender? It's all mashed up, but there's not enough water in there to make the stuff move around, and the blades are just going to get stuck. So I'm going to add a little bit more water. All right. And we're going to try this again. Okay. So, as you can see, take this off again. Ooh, can you see? It's very mashed there. So the stuff that is down by the blades is getting mashed up really well. The stuff that is sitting on the sides is not. So we're going to add a little bit more water and see if we can get that stuff off the sides down into the blades, because if the paper's not reaching the blades, then it's not going to mash up. So let's see. Alrighty. You know what that looks like? Kind of looks like mashed carrots and turnips. My mom always used to make that at Thanksgiving time or Christmas time. So that's kind of what it's reminding me of. So we're going to get this down. I'm going to try it one more time. Okay. Now, we have one section there on the wall of the cup that doesn't want to come down. So I'm going to try one more time with my knife to get that down where we need it. Okay, now if you're doing this with a fork, you're not having the same problem because it's not sticking to the side. You'll be able to just mash it whichever way you want. So, and it's okay if you look at some of the ones that I did before, there's still a few pieces of paper that didn't completely mash up, and that's okay because they should stick in the mash that's already together. So, okay, so one more time. Okay, let's see how we do this time. Okay, now it really does look like mashed carrots. So now what we need to do is we need to take this mash and make it form the little seed pods, the little flower pods, or the flower hearts, depending on how you're going to do it. So we're going to take this off again. Ooh, look at that, guys. Doesn't that look tasty? Anybody want to try that? No, you don't think so? Okay, so now we need to open our packet of seeds. And this part is important because everybody's seed packets are different. Some of you might have really big seeds. Some of you might have little tiny seeds. So we're going to, get this open. We're going to take the mash and put it into, or the pulp. we're going to put it into the molds, filling them half full first, okay? So these ones are a lot of little things. So what we're going to do is just take this in our hand, and the best way to do it is to try and get as much water out as we can. So I'm going to squeeze the water out, and then I'm going to use it to fill my molds. And I'm just going to keep doing this until all of the molds are half full. There's water splashing everywhere. Okay. And we need to make sure that you've left some room in the molds for the seeds and to add more of the pulp. Now I'm seeing that some of the pieces of paper haven't completely mashed up, and that's okay. Wow, I am making a mess here, Greg. There's water splashing everywhere. So I probably could have done this one more time in the blender to make it a little bit smoother, but that's okay. I just want to show you guys how to do this. So you just squeeze as much water out, because the more water you can get out in the first part of the process, the quicker your pods are going to dry. Oops, I just threw them in the water. And the sooner you'll be able to plant them. So, alrighty. So when I'm looking at this, there's still a fair bit of water. When I push my finger into it, the water is coming out. But if you look, there's still a little bit of pulp there in my blade, so I'm going to take them out. So if you've got them about halfway full, some of them I have a little bit more than that, so just take it out for a minute. Okay, then you're going to take your packet of seeds, and you're going to use half of the seeds first, okay? So I just find it easier. I'm going to pour the seeds in my hand. Now, with these wildflower ones, you don't need a lot of seeds. If you've got really big seeds, I would say put 1 or 2 seeds in each one. If you've got smaller ones, you're just going to take your fingers and you're just going to sprinkle the seeds. Oh, let me just get that out of the way so you can see this. So what we're doing is putting the seeds halfway into the pods, and then we're going to continue to fill up the rest of the mold, and then we're going to add the rest of the seeds. So the seeds will they'll stick into the wet mash, and then they will get ready to start growing. So all right, so as you can see, I've got seeds in there and it's halfway full. So now I'm going to take the rest of my pulp or my mash, and I'm just going to squeeze the water out, and I'm going to use it to fill the top of the seed pods. Now, the important part about this is the part where we have to wait, because you want them to be really dry so that they will plant well. So you have to fill up your molds and then put them someplace warm and sunny if you can. I had mine outside on the weekend on my veranda because we had a beautiful sunny day yesterday afternoon. So I took them outside and just left them in the sun, and they did a pretty good job of drying, but they're not quite completely dry yet. So, and if you find that you don't have enough paper to fill all of your molds, you can just add some paper to the colored paper that you have with anything that you have at home. You could use newspaper, you could use coloring paper, you can use printing paper from your printer. Alrighty, I'm just trying to get the last of this little bit out here. Some of them are more full than others. So, and then what I did when I made them on the weekend, just to give them a start on drying, was I took a piece of paper towel and I just put it over top of the molds, and I just kind of went like that, just because it absorbs some of the water and it gets them ready to start drying. So once you have the pods completely full, Remember, there's seeds in the middle of these. So they're already seed bombs, but once you've got all of your molds completely full, then you're going to take the rest of your seeds and you're just going to sprinkle the rest of them on top. So I'm going to do this. And these, according to the picture, are going to have the most beautiful different colors of wildflowers. And I love wildflowers. I like any kind of flowers. Spring is coming and I'm very happy. I just see the sun is trying to come out this morning, so I'm excited to see what these are going to be like once they grow. And I think probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant some in pots just so that I can watch them grow. And the rest of them I'm going to plant in my backyard in one of my gardens so that I can see how the wildflowers come. And I love watching things grow. I love to see the green plants come up and get excited about the fact that something is growing in the yard and it's something that I planted myself. So as you know, tomorrow is Earth Day, and on Earth Day it's always a good idea to do something to take care of the earth, and that's what we're doing. We have an awful lot of garbage and stuff in this world that I see all over the roads, so we're going to do our part and see if we can make our house, our yards and our neighborhoods a little bit more beautiful. Now I'm looking and I'm still seeing an awful lot of water in there, but that's what your mold is going to look like when it's full. And now comes the hard part. Now you have to just leave it alone, let it sit for 2 or 3 days, and then you can take them. These ones have been sitting for about a day and a half and they're still not completely dry. I was able to pop these ones out, but they still feel a little bit wet to the touch. But once your seed bombs are dry, you're just going to take your thumb, push on the mold in the back, and out's going to pop your seed bomb. And then you can take them, and like I said, you can give them as a gift. I like this. You can see the little flower shape in there. It looks really cool. You can give them as a gift, or you can plant them in your yard. You can surprise somebody with them. It'd be a really cool idea to plant them and surprise someone who doesn't know that there's going to be flowers growing. So that's how we do our DIY seed bombs. If you guys have any questions, let me know here at the library. I would love to see pictures of the colors that you guys did. I gave you a bunch of rainbow color paper, but if you have other paper at home that you want to use, go right ahead and do that, because they're going to come out any color you like. And remember I said I added red paper to this and I thought it was going to make the seed bombs red. It didn't, did it? The color of the water turned a little bit red, but you can still see most of the orange and yellow. So these are just kind of like a rainbow seed bomb. These ones are purple, and they're going to grow lots of beautiful plants in our neighborhood. So if you make them, I'd love to see pictures of them. Like this video so that I know that you guys are here. If you have some great stories, if you're giving these as a gift, feel free to share the stories with your friends as well. And you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye-bye.